They're everywhere in media. Maybe you think that the stripes and the Lorax mean something, or that Sans from Undertale is actually Ness from Earthbound. Theories are a natural part of any healthy little story. Deltarune contains a lot of mystery, and because of this, that means there are a load of theories to talk about. But some theories have more evidence than others and are more likely to occur. So today I've found 10 theories to look at, and I'll be ranking them based on how likely I think they are to happen, what solid evidence there is, and what I think the intention behind the theory could be. By the way, don't take offense if you believe or support these theories, I'm just trying to have a little fun, and honestly just spark some discussion. Finally, there will be spoilers for all routes of Undertale and all endings of Deltarune chapters 1 and 2. With that out of the way, enjoy the video. Let's start with one of the most common and bigger theories in the Deltarune community, the Ralsei is evil theory. Many Deltarune fans believe that the sweet and innocent Ralsei that we all know and love actually has a dark side. We don't know much about Ralsei's backstory, and that's what a lot of this theory discusses. How was Ralsei able to get to the cyberworld in chapter 2? Did he travel through all the dark worlds, just leave his dark world and go through the light world? How was Ralsei able to know the layout of the school when asking Kris to grab the items from the card dark world? The biggest piece of evidence for this theory can be seen in chapter 2. During the scene when in the normal route Susie would go and talk to Noelle in a room, leaving Kris and Ralsei behind, and Ralsei will ask Kris how they're doing, which then it transitions into the scene with Noelle and Susie. On the Snowgrave route of the scene, Ralsei tries to trigger the same transition, but fails. The reason this is important is because at the end of the scene in the normal route, we can see Kris and Ralsei having a conversation. Now I've seen a lot of speculation that this conversation is about the player, and Ralsei is revealing all that they know about the player to Kris. This doesn't really make Ralsei evil, but it kinda shows that he knows more than he's letting on. This is backed up by Ralsei's weird reaction upon Susie creating a S action. It's clear that he wants Kris / the player to be in a good position, but for what reason? Another piece of evidence towards this is that Ralsei acts rather odd after the Spamton Vinneo event, dismissing the subject when Susie brings it up. This theory has a lot of good points, but can also be discredited a lot. Ralsei is a lonely prince, a lonely boy. He might just not be the most socially aware person, which would explain a lot of his weird reactions to things. Though I will admit, there are some things he's not telling us, like, why was the roaring only told to us in chapter 2? That's kind of a pretty important detail to leave out, so I'm gonna put this theory in B tier. It's got some ground, but I honestly believe that he still could be an innocent goat. Let's keep the Ralsei theme going with the theory that Ralsei is Asriel. This theory is pretty popular just because of how anyone can see it really. Ralsei is an anagram for Asriel. They're both white goats that look similar. In Undertale, Asriel is a prince, and Ralsei in Deltarune is the Prince of Darkness. Asriel is absent throughout Deltarune as he's in college, yet this could just be a cover for being in the Dark World. Ralsei's dialogue in the fighting tutorial mirrors Flowers in the opening of Undertale, and even Noelle says she recognizes Ralsei but not for Ralsei, for an unknown character, likely Asriel. Though there is a lot to disprove this, Ralsei is very clearly not a Lightner, like Asriel would be. He's not sent to the Queen's Room dungeon along with the other ones. Toby is selling merch of him, which he doesn't do for Lightners due to what I'm going to assume is design changes later in the game, and Ralsei appears to be interested in Kris romantically, which would be very weird if they were siblings. On top of all this, everything I said could just be a coincidence and just be referencing Undertale a little bit. And we've seen within Toby Fox's secret base that Ralsei came before Asriel, so all of this could just be a massive coincidence. I'm going to put this in C tier. It has potential to be true, but it also could be wrong. Hey, real quick, only 2.8% of people who watch my videos actually subscribe. If you like videos about Deltarune, Undertale, and more in one-shot and various other indie games, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it a lot because I've got some awesome projects coming up and hate for you to miss them. I'm also pretty close to 10k, about 4k off, so I'd really appreciate that. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay, just enjoy the rest of the video. Let's switch things up with a Spamton theory. This theory suggests that the mystery caller in Undertale who sings the wrong number song is Spamton looking for Gaster. The big details in this are found within Spamton's backstory as explained by the Addisons. Spamton was an unlucky salesman until he came in contact with someone on the phone that would help him, and then all of a sudden he was incredibly popular and was on the phone all the time with this person. Randomly this person disappeared and Spamton started to fall from his grace. He became obsessed with the power of Nier and was said to be evicted from the Queen's mansion. An Addison went to go visit him but couldn't find him, only a phone hanging off the handle. The Addison put their phone to the ear but only heard garbage noise, the same garbage noise that Kris's phone makes in the Dark World. This garbage noise can be connected to WD Gaster, everyone's favourite mystery man, as the noise for this garbage noise is the sound of entry 17 from Undertale, which is Gaster's entry from being a royal scientist as confirmed by the room name Room_Gaster. Meanwhile in Undertale, the person on the other end of the call asks to speak with someone starting with G, which could be Gaster or Spamton's middle name. Of course, this theory can crumble apart when you ask why the hell Spamton or this mysterious person is singing this song, or why isn't Spamton using his signature dialect. But this could be refuted by saying it was before Spamton was corrupt, but I just assumed he always spoke like this. It's a tricky theory to believe, but it could definitely happen. I'm going to put it in C tier, but above the Asriel theory just because I believe this one has more solid connections and evidence behind it. Sticking with the Undertale and Deltarune crossover theories, let's ask about the man from another world. This was a line said by the river person in Undertale, and the main person speculated to be this man is Sans. Sans' origin story, as said by the shopkeeper in Snowdin, suggests that Sans and Papyrus just showed up one day and asserted themselves to the town. The theory suggests that Sans and Papyrus didn't actually come from the Undertale universe, but were from the Deltarune universe and transported to the Undertale universe. I said universe so many times just then. Sans has the knowledge of universal and timeline travel, so it could check out. But I actually think there are a few holes in this theory. This man from another world could also reference Frisk, as Frisk is the only character in Undertale that's not from the underground besides Kara. Plus, Beware suggests danger, and I know the hell that is the Sans genocide fight, but really? This guy? Danger? Sure, that's not enough to devalue this entire argument, but it could make a lot of sense. I'm going to put this in B tier below the Ralsei is evil theory, because it could be likely to happen, but that's only through fan speculation. Some things I forgot to mention is that this theory could explain why Sans doesn't completely recognize you in Deltarune, and there's also a smaller theory that's kind of spun off by this that suggests that Ralsei is the river person, but this is just based off the looks of the two. The T theory is a smaller Deltarune theory, but it is a great one. This theory suggests that the Ts that you can get in the Cyber City have significant meanings in the characters' relationships with each other. For example, Noelle has a crush on Susie, like a big crush. So when Noelle drinks the Susie tea, it grants her 400 health and she loves it. The tea parallels the relationship that Noelle has with Susie. Susie and Ralsei are best friends, so they have 120 health, same with Kris and Susie. However, Kris and Noelle get 70 health from each other's teas, meaning that they're lesser friends, which is actually seen by Noelle questioning their friendship in the game. This gets even more interesting when Kris drinks the Ralsei tea, only gaining 60 health. This is less than Noelle and it creates the impression that Kris doesn't really like Ralsei that much, contradicting what we see out of Kris's behaviour in the game. This reinforces another theory we'll take a look at later in the video, being the theory that the player and Kris are very separate, but bottom line is the theory dictates that Kris doesn't like Ralsei as much as the player does. And I think this is an S tier theory, it holds up extremely well and I'd accept this as canon just because of it. Let's go full WD Gaster investigation mode on this video. That's right, something that's never been done before ever. Let's talk about a theory that suggests that Gaster in Undertale was researching Dark Worlds and is now trapped within the bunker or chooses to lock themselves in it. According to the Gaster followers in Undertale, Gaster fell into his own creation and was shattered across time and space. When outside the bunker in Deltarune you hear this noise. Speeding up this noise will play entry 17 from Undertale, which is confirmed to be linked to Gaster as I said earlier, because entry 17 is in room_Gaster. Undertale and Deltarune are confirmed to be connected on the help page of the Deltarune website, so I don't think it's too far-fetched to assume that WD Gaster is in the bunker and hiding as a result of his experiments, sent to this universe by a mistake of his own. I'll put this theory in A tier because I personally believe it and it almost seems like everything is going to lead up to it, especially with the voice on Twitter and the voice at the start of the game. Let's go with another Gaster theory. I know, I'm really reaching new ground here. Gaster is the voice at the start of the game, and you are creating a new future with them. Gaster's speech pattern in entry 17, mainly being short sentences and fully capitalized words, is identical to the voice at the start of the game and the voice that's seen on Twitter, which I'll just go ahead and say are all the same person. One of these tweets says, "I look forward to creating a new future with you," showing that us being in the Gorna Maker was on purpose and the current world is unideal to Gaster. This is reinforced in chapter 1 when you die. Giving up says that the world has been covered in darkness, but continuing says that the future is in our hands, showing how important this future really is. This theory, made by _solidwater on Reddit by the way, says that the events of Deltarune have already happened, but without us. The Roaring had already taken over and we're here to prevent that this time. This new future starts with Gaster recruiting us to control Kris, and yes, we're controlling Kris. The connection that we and Gaster have are clearly not cut at all. On the file selection in chapter 1 you can see Gaster talking when you copy or delete saves. Plus this all makes sense because Gaster was a royal scientist who performed experiments. This is an experiment. It's a solid theory, shout out to solidwater. I'm going to put this in A tier because it could be completely true, but I don't know. I can just see this going in another direction. I know that's without me saying any evidence, but I don't know. I can see the Gaster thing being 100% true. I think that's 100% true, but I can just see his involvement being different. One of the more unknown parts of Deltarune is the relationship between the player and Kris. I've seen a lot of people say that the player is evil, and there's definitely a good reason why people think this. We are controlling Kris, and this is seen within the Snowgrave route as Noah doesn't even recognize the voice coming out of Kris anymore, suggesting that it's our voice. But this theory can be tested when considering that Kris may have been the one to interrupt the survey program at this point here, the part in which the text changed, wanting us to assume their identity. We can tell this because of the difference in the background and the text. Instead of being Gaster's signature capitals, it's now this regular grammar. Also, we do not have much control over Kris as you think. Who's sparing, performing some acts and using items? It's Kris. Kris and the player aren't enemies, they're sort of friends but are mainly just there to help each other out. I know this has been a little brief, but I'm going to be honest, I just don't have much to say about this theory because we really don't know much about the relationship between the player and Kris. And there have been other videos that talk about this topic a lot more in detail, so I'd rather you watch them. After you watch mine, of course. Keep watching. I'm going to put this theory in B tier. I think there's some evidence to support it, but I think we need to see more about the relationship between Kris and the player before thinking more about this. I've saved the biggest theory for last. Who is the Knight? This theory has been really prominent all throughout Deltarune's lifespan because the Knight is even a more mysterious figure than someone like Sans or WD Gaster, who may be mysterious in their own right, but at least we know a bit about them. There are 4 main characters who are thought to be the Knight: Kris, Alvin, Papyrus, and WD Gaster. Let's go through them all and we'll rank them individually. Kris is probably the biggest suspect out of all of them. Kris can create fountains and we've seen them do it at the end of chapter 2. Kris's Dark World sprite looks a lot like a knight's armor. When Kris removes their soul at the end of chapter 1, we don't see all of what they do. We know they eat the pie, but other than that, they could have gone to the library and opened the Dark World. They have a motive too. They miss their brother a lot and just want some control back in their life. In the Dark World, Kris gets control over people and gets to see Ralsei and Lancer. But there are 2 strong pieces of evidence that suggest that Kris isn't the Knight. One piece of evidence can be found when inspecting the computer lab's supply closet. It says that a large person could fit inside, which I'm going to assume is the Knight, and Kris is not a large person. They are shown many times to be short throughout chapter 2. The other piece of evidence that I have is that when returning from the Dark World in chapter 2, you can see Birdie and Noah with their books out, meaning that the Knight would have had to create the fountain while they were studying, which means that it couldn't have been Kris. Kris came later. This adds on to what I was saying before, as the large man text could be referring to the Knight fitting in there and hiding while they were studying. Alright, so we know it's not Kris. What about Alvin? If you're not familiar with Alvin, that's okay. Alvin is the head of the church and religion in Hometown. The church has the Deltarune symbol on top of it, and Alvin is quite dedicated to the angel. The weapon that he used to open the fountain could have been the hammer that we hear him talk about. And there's a picture that Alvin signed in the supply closet at the school, also known as the room which hosts the first Dark World. Plus, Alvin is a larger person than Kris, which may explain that text I was talking about earlier. Alvin's pretty credible, but let's move on to the next suspect. Papyrus. I know, this guy. But there is some evidence for this. In Undertale, he always dreamt of being a royal guard, and if we're following what happened to Toriel, who always wanted to be a teacher, then Papyrus gets to be a knight. Papyrus is barely mentioned throughout Deltarune, only being mentioned by name on the Steam page of Deltarune. The game says you'll meet familiar faces like Toriel and Sans. It also mentions Papyrus but says he's busy. If Papyrus had no place in Deltarune, wouldn't he just been omitted from the list? To play devil's advocate though, it could just been because Papyrus is a very recognisable character from Undertale. Papyrus also had an egg in the dating hut in Undertale, which can be connected to the mysterious eggs found in Deltarune. That actually shocked me how much evidence there was for this. I'm gonna be real, I didn't know about this theory before researching, so that's kinda cool, and I low-key kinda believe it. I won't be surprised if Papyrus is the Knight. Finally, the last suspect, WD Gaster. Now I've got a whole video that talks about this, which you can check out, so I'll be a little bit brief. I believe that WD Gaster is the man behind the tree, aka the one who gives you the eggs I mentioned earlier, and by extension, the Knight. Purely because of the eggs. Egg and Wingdings is left up, which is how a knight moves in chess. Wingdings is related to Gaster because of entry 17, and entry 17 is related to Deltarune because of the garbage noise on the phone like I said earlier. There isn't much evidence I want to go over other than that because so many people have made videos like this, especially this amazing video by Misty Sparkles, which I feel like I shout out in every single video, but it's just such an amazing video. Check it out. I'm going to put Kris in D tier, Alvin in A tier, Papyrus in B tier, and Gaster below Papyrus in B tier. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. I really enjoyed making it. It's a bit different, like combining the tier list with the theories. So if you want me to do a part 2, comment down your theories and I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.